Okay.
Good morning. Today is September 5th, 2024. It's approximately 9:30 a.m. This is the matter of the application Z0220-24. It is a application for a conditional use permit for a solar facility, Crawford Solar. My name is Carl Cox. I'm a private attorney uh, appointed as the land use hearings officer with authority to conduct this hearing. I'll state several important things for the participants. This is a quasi-judicial land use hearing, meaning two important things for those participating in this hearing. First, all of the criteria that can be used in reaching a decision have been identified in the staff report. Testimony, arguments, and evidence must be directed towards the criteria identified in the staff report or other relevant criteria found in the comprehensive plan or other land use regulation that the person believes applies to the decision. Accordingly, please direct your testimony to a relevant approval criterion. Second, failure to raise an issue accompanied by statements or evidence sufficient to afford the decision maker and the parties an opportunity to respond to the issue may preclude appeal to the Oregon's Land Use Board of Appeals on that issue. Failure of the applicant to raise constitutional or other issues relating to proposed conditions of approval with sufficient specificity to allow the local government or its designee to respond to the issue precludes an action for damages in circuit court. Once final, this decision may be appealed to the Oregon Land Use Board of Appeals. I'll also state a couple of other important things for the record. And first, this hearing is being recorded. That hearing record is available to the county. I have not received any ex parte contact, meaning no one contacted me outside of these proceedings to try to persuade me concerning a fact or issue present at this hearing. I have considered issues of bias and conflict of interest and have determined that I do not have any bias or conflict of interest in this matter. Also, prior to closing the record, I will provide an opportunity for any participant to request that the record remain open. I'll discuss that again later. At this time, I will ask that the county provide an explanation concerning participation in this hearing via the Zoom platform.
Great, thank you. I will start by sharing my screen and then I will go ahead and read our Zoom script. Give me one moment here. Okie doke. This public hearing will be conducted virtually using the Zoom platform. Panelists for today's hearing, which include the hearings officer, county staff, and the applicant, have both video and audio capability. Audience members who have joined the meeting will have their microphones muted unless they wish to testify, in which case they will be called upon to do so by the county staff moderator. Audience members' video will not be turned on at any time. Today's hearing is being recorded as required by law. The county will make every effort to post the recording on the county website later today. There is a designated time during the hearing when it will be open for testimony. The hearings officer will make it clear when this is. If you want to provide testimony, you will utilize the raise hand. For attendees on PC and iPads, you have a raise hand button on your Zoom bar, either at the top or bottom of your screen, depending on your device. When the moderator switches you over to provide your testimony, your screen will look different for a little while. Primarily, you will see all participants' cameras, not just the one who's speaking. Staff will call upon you when it is time for you to provide testimony. Be sure to provide your name and mailing address when you begin. Once you have provided your testimony, your microphone will be muted and your screen will be returned to normal. If the record is left open at the end of this hearing and you wish to submit additional written testimony, you can email your written testimony to myself at mlord@clackamas.us, or you can mail it to the Clackamas County Planning and Zoning Division at 150 Beaver Creek Road, Oregon City, 97045. My contact email address is also available on the webpage where you found the link for today's Zoom hearing. Testimony must be received by 4 p.m. on the day the record closes. For people who testify and provide their mailing address will receive a copy of the hearings officer's written decision. If you do not wish to testify but would like to receive a copy of the decision, you must provide your email or standard mailing address to myself by email at mlord@clackamas.us or by entering it into the Zoom chat function during the hearing.
Thank you. I see that you have a PowerPoint presentation prepared, so will that be an exhibit as well?
I will make it one, yes.
Okay, perfect. The order of proceedings will be that I will ask the county to begin by presenting the county's review, this county's staff report, and that means this PowerPoint presentation, followed by an opportunity for the applicant to also present information that the applicant wants me to consider in making a decision. And if there are public participants who join us at some time, I'll make an opportunity for them as well. Please begin, Ms. Lord.
Great, thank you. So my name is Melissa Lord. I am a planner with Clackamas County's Planning and Zoning Division, speaking today as it relates to a conditional use permit, land use file number Z0220-24. Generally, the property itself, the subject property is about 80 acres in size in the Malala area off of Highway 213. The property is zoned exclusive farm use, or EFU. And the applicant is proposing to construct a 12-acre solar facility on this parcel with a perimeter site obscuring fence. At this time, we have not received any public comments. We have received a couple comments from partner agencies, but none from the public at this time. Staff has recommended that the conditional use permit be approved, subject to some conditions. Full description or full analysis of that recommendation is entered into the record as exhibit number 1, which is the staff report that I wrote. So for today's hearing, or my presentation today, I'll just be touching kind of on some of the very high level points of why I've recommended approval of the application. This is a site plan that was provided by the applicant's team showing the subject property, and then in blue in the northeast corner of the site showing generally this 12-acre area where the solar facility would be located. Of note here, you can see actually 2 other solar facilities in the area, one at the bottom right of the image, just to the south of the property, and then one across Highway 213, kind of to the northwest of the property as well. So a solar power generation facility is listed as a conditional use in the exclusive farm use zone, which is why we're reviewing this as a type 3 land use application for a conditional use permit. Some of the relevant review criteria for conditional uses include whether the characteristics of this particular site are suitable for the proposed use. So when determining that, we can look at things like size or shape, location, topography, things of that nature to determine that the characteristics of the site are suitable. In this particular case, we looked at location. The applicant states that this particular property is near the utility interconnection point, which would be important for a solar facility. The 12-acre area on this property where the solar array would be located is generally quite flat. And so therefore the topography in this instance would make this proposal suitable for the site. And then when we look at presence of regulated environmental features, what I mean by that is environmental features regulated by our zoning and development ordinance. So things like development on steep slopes, which would be slopes greater than 20%. Mass movement hazard areas, which are areas identified on a Dogami Bulletin 99 map. River and stream corridors regulated by section 704 of our zoning code, and then floodplain, which is section 703 of our zoning code. None of those features are actually present on the subject property. And so for those reasons, we found that the characteristics of this property are suitable. Additionally, we look at whether the proposed use would alter the character of the surrounding area in a substantial way, in a way that might limit or impair other properties in the surrounding area from using their property in a way that's permitted. Predominantly, the land in the surrounding area is in farm use. There's rural home sites, but predominantly it is farm use. The solar facility is not expected to produce any significant amounts of light, glare, odor, traffic, or noise. For those reasons, we've determined that the solar facility would not substantially limit any of the surrounding properties. The site itself will not be using any water, so water supply here really is not an issue. The surface water management and erosion control section of our zoning code was reviewed by our development engineering division. They did sign a preliminary statement of feasibility saying that the surface water management standards can be met by this proposal. So again, finding compliance with these two sections of our zoning code as well. When we look at roads and road connectivity, this particular site is going to be an unstaffed facility, so there really won't be any generation of traffic other than the occasional maintenance needs or visits to observe the facility, but it's not a staffed operation. So there will be a very limited number of vehicle trips generated on the Highway 213 due to the establishment of a solar facility at this site. Access onto 213 is already being constructed, so there's no new access being proposed. And so again, finding compliance with this section as well. There are recommended conditions of approval that relate to section 1007 of our zoning code, which speaks specifically to creating turnouts on the private property for emergency vehicle access. When we look at section 1009, our landscaping section, staff determined that buffering would be necessary in order to mitigate adverse visual impacts. The code specifically, when it talks about buffering requirements, lists using buffering as a technique to mitigate adverse visual impacts between dissimilar adjoining uses. In this particular instance, I've identified that there is a home about 500 feet or so from the edge of the solar facility. The home itself is located just northeast of the site. And so we've recommended a condition of approval that would require a landscape buffer between just a portion of that solar facility to help block the visual impacts of it from to that home on the northeast. And I've tried to verbally describe that in my recommended condition, but I do have a visual diagram here that hopefully can help. In the top right corner of our picture here, we've got the home in question. I've recommended a 200 feet of landscape buffering in the northeast corner of the subject property, in the northeast corner of the solar site. And I think that would provide adequate buffering to mitigate those visual impacts from the home to the solar facility or vice versa. Parking, again, it's an unstaffed facility, so we've found that really only one space should be required to support that occasional maintenance need. I believe in the submitted application materials, the applicant does say that they will provide the parking space. We've just recommended a condition of approval, asking for the applicant to show that particular space within the array fenced area or near the facility itself. There's no doubt that there is adequate space for it to be provided. Just want to be able to see it and identify it on the site plan. And then lastly, there are other related approval criteria that we evaluated. All of those were detailed in the staff report. But super quick, we looked at dimensional standards, making sure that the solar facility is going to meet the minimum setbacks of the zoning district. We looked at whether the facility would force a significant change in the cost of accepted farming practices. And then there are relevant Oregon administrative rules, administrative rules criteria that pertain specifically to establishing solar facilities on high value farmlands, which are applicable here. And we found compliance with all of these as well. And so with that, we do recommend approval with conditions. And that concludes my presentation, but happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Oh, thank you. It was very thorough. I did have an opportunity to review your staff report and the related exhibits in advance of the hearing, and it answered all my questions.
Perfect. Thank you.
At this time, an opportunity for the applicant to add anything that the applicant wants me to consider in making a determination here.
Sure, this is Bruce Moore. I'm the Director of Permitting for Hawthorne Renewables. We're the applicant for this project. We can just quick go through a short presentation that we have here for that shows what the what our proposal is for. So, you know, Hawthorne Renewable Energy is a small local developer. We're based here in Portland. We also have offices in Phoenix, Arizona. We were founded in 2016, and we continue to develop both community scale solar like this project, and then also we're moving forward with some larger utility scale solar projects in Oregon and Washington at this time. The Melissa already showed a site plan, and this is just another copy of the site plan of our layout. So we're proposing the access road would come in here from 213 from the west, and then the project itself would be located on the eastern side of the property. There are the two existing solar projects. One of them is basically directly downhill and in direct view of our project. The other one is across the highway on the other side. It would not be visible, but it is visible from Highway 213. And those projects have been built and are operating. So this is a quick just photo of roughly where the site would be. This is on the road, the existing road that comes in from the highway west of the site. And this is approximately where it would be on the top of the hill. That line of trees behind it is the line of trees that's in between would be in between the project and the existing home that where the proposed screening was identified to be located. So this is just a rough idea of where the site is. The existing solar farm can't really be seen behind these trees, but it's located a short distance south of where we're proposing the project. We did complete a wetland delineation that based on what our final design is, we will be moving forward with any wetland permitting if needed. At this point, we don't expect that, but we have a wetland delineation that was completed and will be submitted to DSL for concurrence. And we've also completed a phase 1 environmental site assessment, which found no recognized environmental conditions. So there's no hazardous waste that was identified on the site. So, you know, with that, I don't know that we need to put out anything more than what Melissa had already gone over with our project, but we're happy to answer any questions you might have.
First, will you submit this presentation as an exhibit?
Yeah, I just emailed it to Melissa.
Perfect. I do have a couple of questions, but I thought the presentation was clear. First, did you have an opportunity to review the proposed conditions of approval submitted by Ms. Lord and the county? And do you have any issue with any of them that you'd like to?
We do not.
Okay. Then I have, and do you have someone else on your team that you want to have an opportunity to provide additional testimony?
At this point, no, they're just here. We've got our real estate folks and our development folks in case there are any questions about landowner interactions, et cetera. But we don't have anything else to provide for a presentation at this time.
Thank you. Ms. Renhart, are there any public participants that joined?
We do have one attendee in the audience, but I do not have a hand raised.
Okay, well, let me just make the opportunity clear. This is, at this time, I'm making an opportunity for any public comments that and would like to make concerning this application? Okay. With that, I'm going to state for the record my question about keeping the record open. Does any party or member of the audience want an opportunity to provide additional evidence, arguments, or testimony? And does the applicant wish to waive the period for final written argument? Does anyone want the record to stay open? All right.
I do not, thank you.
Then I'll close the record at 4 p.m. today. If any additional information does come in, I think the applicant should have an opportunity to look at it before they waive that period. Well, I'll ask the applicant. Does the applicant wish to waive the period for final written argument?
If there aren't any existing written comments put in, we can waive that. We
Okay.
have no additional comments from our side.
Perfect. Then the record will close at 4 p.m. today. I intend to issue a written decision approving the application subject to condition. Are there any questions before I close the hearing?
Not from our side. Thank you.
Thank you. It was nice to meet you all.
Great.
Thank
Thanks
you.
very much.